On January 22, 1879, the British forces suffered a crushing defeat in the Battle of Isandlwana. The survivors, exhausted and battered, was retreating to Rorke's Drift. Rorke's Drift was a mission station of the Church of Sweden and formerly a trading post owned by James Rorke, a merchant of Irish descent from the Eastern Cape. It was situated near a ford on the Buffalo River, which formed the border between the British colony of Natal and the Zulu Kingdom then. Soon, a few survivors reached Rorke's Drift with word that a Zulu contingent was shortly behind them. The Zulu king Cetshwayo had given explicit instructions not to cross into Natal. He wanted to frame the war as a defensive one and sue for peace. However, the Zulu reserves from the Battle of Isandlwana, led by Prince Dabulamanzi Kampandi, disobeyed his order, crossing into Natal but to assault Rorke's Drift. At Rorke's Drift, the commanding officers, Lieutenant John Chard of the Royal Engineers and Lieutenant Gomville Bromhead of the 24th Regiment, made the critical decision to hold their position. With a force of only 150 men, they knew the approaching Zulu army heavily outnumbered them. Chard and Bromhead directed their men to prepare defences, using mealie bags, biscuit boxes, and crates of tinned meat to create a defensive perimeter. They fortified the storehouse, hospital, and a stout stone kraal with loopholes and barricaded doors. Around 3:30 p.m., a troop of about 100 Natal native horse under Lieutenant Alfred Henderson arrived, having retreated from Isandlwana. They volunteered to picket the far side of the Oskarbug, the hill overlooking the station. Soon, the Zulu came. Many Zulus were armed with assegais and shields, with a few having old rifles and some captured Martini Henrys. At about 4:20 p.m., the battle began with Henderson's men briefly engaging the Zulu vanguard. However, tired and short of ammunition, Henderson's men retreated to help Mekar. As the sun set, the Zulu army, numbering between 3,000 to 4,000 warriors, closed in on Rorke's Drift. Private Frederick Hitch, posted atop the storehouse, reported the large column of Zulus. At around 4:30 p.m., the first wave of Zulu attacks began. The British opened fire when the Zulus were 500 yards away. The Zulu assaulted the south wall, swinging around to the north side as they closed. The Zulu never reached the wall in the first wave. The next wave went wide, using underbrush as cover. They began a protracted attack, trying again and again to take the northwestern wall. At the end of the first hour or so, the battle was going well for the British. Their wall was tall enough that the Zulu couldn't easily climb it, and while the northwestern wall had outbreaks of hand-to-hand combat, the British kept the Zulu off the wall everywhere else. The Zulu then employed their muskets and began shooting from the high ground surrounding the mission. Their fire wasn't accurate, however, and the British saw them off with their rifles. Next, the Zulu chief urged their men forward and redoubled their attack, this time from more directions. They began to spill over the wall. The Brits gave ground before countering with bayonet charges. However, like at Isandlwana, there were simply too many Zulu. The British withdrew to a final defensive position around the storehouse. The British retreat resulted left some men stranded in the hospital, which was now surrounded by Zulu and shortly thereafter set on fire. Soldiers like Private Alfred Henry Hook, who despite being wounded, continued to fight and defend the hospital building, saving many lives. The defenders used every resource at their disposal to hold their ground. Pritchard realized that the north wall could not be held, and at 6 p.m. he retreated with his men into the courtyard, abandoning the two front rooms of the hospital. The hospital was now impossible to defend, with the Zulus either reaching for rifles through the loopholes or firing in. The defenders included Corporal Allen and Privates Cole, Dunbar, Hitch, Horrigan, brothers John and Joseph Williams, Hook, and brothers Robert and William Jones. When their ammunition ran out, they switched to revolvers. Joseph Williams defended the window, where 14 dead Zulus were later found. John Williams cut an escape route when the Zulus began to attack the central room. He managed to get to patients out before the door was broken down. Hook defended the corner room with 9 patients. Williams cut through the wall into the next room, where Private Waters was, and moved the patients in. When the Zulus broke through the door, Hook killed several, then ducked through the hole. After 50 minutes, they had broken through, and most of the defenders were in the final room, defended by Robert and William Jones. The patients climbed out the window and reached the barricade. Of the 11 patients, 9 survived, as did all the able-bodied men. According to Reynolds, 4 defenders were killed in the hospital, including Private Cole and several patients who refused to move. The British fought their way free, but some of the hospital patients died in the fire. The night was falling. Unfortunately for the British, the burning hospital gave off enough light for them to see the Zulu. The Zulu attacks persisted into the night, but began to slacken after midnight, ending around 2 a.m. Harassing fire from Zulu firearms continued until 4 a.m. By then, the garrison had sustained significant casualties, with 14 dead, several seriously wounded, and most of the defenders having some form of injury. Despite their exhaustion and dwindling ammunition, the British held firm. When dawn came, the British saw that the Zulus had gone. Only the dead and seriously wounded remained. Patrols were sent out to reconnoiter the battlefield, to retrieve rifles and look for survivors, many of whom were killed when they were found. At around 7 a.m., a Zulu impi suddenly appeared, and the British reoccupied their positions. However, the attack failed because the Zulus had been on the move for 6 days before the battle and had not eaten properly for 2. They had hundreds of wounded in their ranks and were several days away from any supplies. Soon after their appearance, the Zulus retreated the way they had come. At about 8 a.m., another force appeared and the defenders left breakfast to take up their positions again. However, the force turned out to be the advance guard of Lord Chelmsford's column. The defenders of Rorke's Drift held their ground and were not defeated in this battle, despite the overwhelming odds. The bravery and determination of these men became legendary, and 11 Victoria Crosses were awarded for the defence, the most ever for a single engagement. The 17 British and over 600 Zulu died in this battle. Rorke's Drift was saved, and the British lionised the fight to distract from their defeat at Isandlwana. The war will continue for another 6 months, and many more battles between the Zulu and the British, but that is the next video.